All right, so here I have a Toyota Yaris. This is a 4-door hatchback, 5-door basically. So this is a 2012 with only 40,000 miles, almost 41,000 miles. So 2012, now it's 24, so it's about 12 years old. So 12 years old, it's been well taken care of. It has the records of everything. I think like the first 15 or 20,000 miles, it was maintenance at the dealership, and after that was at some independent shop. But it took really good care of it, and I went through it and checked everything, and everything looks good. The only thing that needs to be done is the coolant. Replace the coolant, and it's probably time to bleed the brakes too, because the color on there is getting kind of dark. Anyway, so right now I'm not flushing, I'm draining the coolant. So to drain the coolant, the best way to drain the coolant, usually a radiator. Let's look at the radiator here. The radiator has a drain plug. See down right there, the little yellow thing right there. There's usually a drain plug somewhere. When you open it, it'll drain out. But the key to draining it takes a little bit longer, but the key to draining it, the best way to drain it is to open that plug, and your coolant reservoir, open the cap. Don't open anything else. Don't open your radiator. And the reason for that is when you open the drain plug and the reservoir, because the coolant's coming down, and it's creating a vacuum, it will actually suck the coolant from the reservoir. If you open the cap, it won't suck the reservoir out. It's gonna stay full. So that means you have to take the reservoir off, or do something else. So why make it harder on yourself, right? Why do more work? So that that's the best way of doing it. So do that. Once it drains out, and I think it just stopped right now. So after that, I'm probably gonna open this up and it probably drain up to more. So yeah, so that's basically I think that's the best way of approaching draining the coolant. Okay, so we're back. So it was emptying out, and I double checked, shine a light down in here and make sure that the reservoir was empty. Once the reservoir was empty, then I opened up the cap to release whatever else. And I forgot to mention, before I did this, I did start the engine and ran the heater, turn it full heat heater on, so that way it opens up the heater core, because the coolant also runs into the heater core, right? So if the heater is off, the heater core actually closes. So whatever coolant's in there, I'm not sure where the heat core is, in here somewhere. If it closes, that means the old coolant will stay in there. It won't drain out. But if you turn on the heater, full blast, it will open up that valve and run it for like 30 seconds or so. You don't need much time. Then turn off the engine, and with everything on, turn off the engine. Then that should leave that valve open. So when you drain out the coolant, the heater core will also drain out as well. So it looks like everything's done. I have this open, I have that open, and it's stopped coming down. So this car is supposed to have 4.6 liters of coolant. So 4.6 liters is 4.6 liters is 4.9 quarts. So just under 5 quarts, and 4 quarts is a gallon. So basically we have about a gallon and a quarter, or just less than a gallon and a quarter, because 5 quarts would be a gallon and a quarter. So I'm gonna put it in my 1 gallon jugs, and I should have 1 jug and a quarter of a jug, and I know that all the coolant went out. So before I even measure my coolant, I'm gonna put in distilled water in here, because again, it's been 12 years, and this is a 2012. I'm not sure if 2012 they started using the long life coolant or not, because I'm looking at the color. I think their Toyota's long life coolant is red, if I could remember right, and that color looks like it's green. looks green to me. Let's see. I'm colorblind, so it's kind of hard to tell. But oh, actually, you know what? It is kind of reddish, but I'm not sure if that reddish is corrosion or not. But okay, so I think it is the long life, and the long life coolant is good for, I think it's 10 years. It might be more, but it's at least 10 years. So anyways, it's 12 years. I might as well just do this. Anyways, I'm haven't measured that yet. What I'm doing is I have my gallon of distilled water right here. I'm gonna pour it in. It should take everything. And it should take everything. I think that 4.9 quarts, I believe it also includes the reservoir as well. So I think the reservoir probably holds, you know, a quart or so, or maybe close, or maybe a little bit less than a quart. Looking at it, it's probably a little less than a quart. But anyways, it should take this whole jug and some. So I'm gonna do that. All right, so I filled it with a gallon of distilled water in there and burped it out. I actually had to run the engine to burp out the air bubbles as much as I could. When the air bubble stopped, I capped it, and I filled the rest with the into the reservoir. And I think I only had about maybe 12 ounces left that was in the reservoir. So let's look at how much I poured out. So this is how much I poured out. You know, this thing was full with distilled water, and this is how much I have left outside. So that's about right. So I don't think my the distilled water filled up the reservoir to the full mark, because this was actually at the full mark. The cooler was at the full mark. So yeah, so I put in about as much as I put out. So anyways, I ran the engine. It's definitely warm. The cap is actually cool. It's actually cool to the touch. So the cap's cool to the touch, but the hoses are, they're hot, but they're not hot enough to burn. Obviously, you know, I have my hand on here. I'm able to hold it, and it feels hot, but it's not burning me, so it's not that hot. So I ran it for, I actually drove around. I drove around for like 5 miles, but I have the heater on high the whole time that I drove around for 5 miles. Actually, maybe a little more than 5 miles, maybe 7 miles. So anyway, so that should have been enough to recirculate, especially with the heater on and everything, throughout the system. So that was my flush right there. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not using some type of special flush. I'm thinking about doing a flush, but I don't think it needs it, because this coolant, it wasn't really in that bad of shape. I've seen coolant that was like really bad. When it's really bad, and you can see that like stuff like corrosion and stuff, like rust and stuff in the coolant. That means, you know, it's really old and it's been there for a while, and there's corrosion. That's when you want to buy one of those coolant flush, because that helps clean that stuff out. But I think this is okay. That's why I'm just using straight water or distilled water. So the system is definitely hot. I'm gonna give it a little bit time to cool down, a little more. So again, this thing is cool right here. It's totally cool to the touch. And you know, the hose, you know, I have my hand on here. I can feel it's hot, but it's not hot enough to burn me. So you know what? I'm gonna open up the drain, because the drain pours down anyways, right? It doesn't splash. So you don't want to do this when it's blazing hot. Okay, it's pouring out. It's pouring out pretty good initially, because there's a little pressure because it's warm. But anyways, so yeah, so I'm gonna drain out as much as I can. So I'm just gonna open it again, like my initial drain. I open the drain plug, leave the cap here open, wait until this empties out. Once this empties out, then I can open the cap here. So yeah, I'm pretty much about halfway through. I just need to wait for that to drain, and I'm gonna fill it with new coolant and burp it out, and I should be done. All right, so I drained out the flush, the distilled water, and I filled up my my 50-50 mix. I topped off the reservoir here at the full mark, and here this is topped off, and you see there's no more air bubble coming out. But that doesn't mean that it's full, and that doesn't mean that there's no air bubble. There's air in there. There's cavities in there that are, you know, at higher points that needs to be needs for the engine to run to a pump, you know, the water pump to push through and burp out those air bubbles. And let me show you how to do this. At least how I do it anyways. So the engine's already warm, so this should go pretty fast. Let's go in and start up the car. I have the heater on. Right, heat is on maximum. Blow the fan is on maximum. Start up the car, and again the car has 40,700. So let's cut this up real quick. All right, so the fan heater's blowing. All of a sudden, oh, coolant level went down because it's burping out those air bubbles. So let's pour this in, and you can see more air bubbles coming up. See that? I fill it up. Then it burps it. It burps. Slowly burped it. See that? So you can do this. What you want to pay attention to when you do this is that you want to make sure that the coolant level is always dropping. If the coolant level stops dropping or it starts to go up, that means you're done. That means the coolant is getting warm and it's starting to expand, right? And you see that, you know, you look around the field, you don't feel that there's no overflow. So you know that my coolant is not, you know, it's not spilling out. It's staying inside the system. See that? So you do that until the air bubbles stop, or until you start to see the coolant level stop dropping and it start to raise. That means it's expanding, and that's your cue to stop the engine and cap it. And once you've done that, you run the you might want to run the car for a few more minutes and let it cool down. Then once it cools down, then you can check the level again. But usually you don't have to check here if that's the case, because usually when it expands, it will push out into the in the reservoir. Then whatever air bubbles is in there, it pushes out here. And when it cools down and contrasts, it sucks the coolant from here. So it basically it fills itself. You know, as long as there's coolant in here, it should be okay. But anyway, so you drive that for, let's say you finish doing that, drive it around for a day, then the next, let it cool overnight. Then you want to check here again when it's cool, make sure it's full, and check here that it's at the full mark. That's it, and you're done. That's really easy. This car is actually the easiest. It's still bubbling a little bit, so I'm not sure. So pay attention to if it bubbles, but the coolant's not going down. That means you're done. That means what's happening is it's boiling. Those bubbles are not air bubbles, but those bubbles are actually boiling. So I see bubble coming out, and I don't really see the coolant going down. So I think I'm just about done then. And I have my heater core open, right, the valve, because my heater's on. So whatever coolant's in there, it should flush out. And I put in almost a full tank or the full bottle in here, so I have a little bit left. Just like when I filled that in, I had a little bit left. Just a little bit left. I think about the same amount, like I don't know, less than 12 ounces or so, maybe 8 ounces. But anyways, I think it's pretty much done. I don't really see the actually, the coolant did drop a little bit, but not much though. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, thanks for watching. So check this out. I was pouring this, and you could see. It's kind of hard for you guys to see because of the glare. But you can see like little shiny bits in there of metal. Let's see if I could block that glare from the. See those little bits of silver? That's little bits of metal in there. So that's interesting. I'm filling this coolant bottle up. That's what was full, and so far it's filling up and it hasn't overspilled. It's not topping out yet. So yeah, that's it. That's all the coolant. So let's see if it's set. Yeah, it's actually it's a little bit more than what was in this bottle. This bottle had a slightly less, maybe another quarter inch or so below the bottom of the neck here was where it was at, maybe even half an inch below that. But anyways, yeah, so it took because when this, so that's actually more than a gallon, because I think a gallon's only like up to like around here somewhere. Yeah, I think a gallon's only like around here somewhere. So anyways, yeah, ran the system, whipped it out. I waited for the coolant to stop lowering, and it just stayed still. That's when I stopped the engine, and it should be good. So I'm gonna drive around, then let it cool overnight, and double check and see if it needs to be topped off. I don't think I do, because this right here is filled up to the reservoir. It's pretty much full. It's actually a little bit over full. So whatever bubbles here, it's gonna go out the tube, burp out here. Then when it cools down again, it's gonna suck the coolant back in. So it should be fine. The only thing, I don't even need to check in here. I just need to look at the cap here. If it goes below that full mark, then I know that there was still air bubbles in the system. All right, that's it. So just one other thing I can say is that so the original coolant was was the Toyota coolant red. That's what I drained out. I didn't use Toyota coolant. I used Prestone. I think the Prestone one it's like a 5-year life one, and that's fine. They nowadays they make 5 year, 10 years, 15 years even. But I'm really hesitant to use those longer interval ones, just because I like to I'd rather do it more often, flush it out, whatever gunk that's in there that builds up, whatever, and have more recent fresh stuff. It's also the same reason why, when I use oil, I use the proper grade oil, right? You use full synthetic. Always full synthetic, but I don't bother to go with it. If they have like those longer life oils, I don't bother with that, because I'd rather drain it out and feel fresh fluids than just leave the old fluid for a really long time. And anytime you leave things for a really long time, it's always a bad idea, even though it was designed intended for that. There's other things go on, other things happen. So anyways, that's my thought on that.